Hello, 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 you guys. Welcome to Life Discussion with Dr. Jefferson and friends. I am your humble host, Dr. Jefferson, and I will be facilitating the show for the remainder of today. If you guys are new here, please do take the time now to click the subscribe button, like, and share the content before we get started. This will be a pretty interesting show, if I might say so myself. Um, on this show, if you are new here, of course, we are a platform that delves into difficult conversations. We have accountability conversation and general discussion about things that are issues that affect Americans that happen to identify with Black America. And some of those issues that we discuss are issues that impact them directly here and things that we are doing in life, kind of like this show, but sometimes it's like a distal impact discussion. Accountability conversations typically are the difficult conversations and sometimes elephant in the room topics where they're intended to bring about, of course, accountability, and they could lead to shifts in the paradigm of our subculture in America for Black and Brown people. And as you know, on this channel, we do believe that people are only people, but culture is paramount to the condition of internalized perceptions of those native and otherwise indoctrinated perceptions or ideals. So, without further ado, I do want us to go ahead and jump in. So, culture, interestingly enough, is the initial topic, and it will be myself primarily, and Kel is here, our show's producer, to have a little bit more of an expanded conversation about kind of how we see that. When you think about culture, I'd like to know the first thing that comes to your mind. And as you're thinking about that, I guess we'll go ahead and we'll discuss what culture looks like or what we think about when it first is mentioned. So I'm going to defer to Kels. When you think about culture, right? Personally, on a personal level, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
Religion, ethnic groups, demographic way ahead.
So,
Yeah.
Religion, ethnicity, and
what they said.
Region.
Like,
Okay.
You know, like what part of the country or nation the world in, that kind of tell what culture they'll be in. You know.
Okay. When I think of culture, the first thing that comes to mind is customs, tradition, language, mutual and sometimes conflicting spirituality. So in that sense, I guess religion is a huge part of my thoughts when I think about culture. I feel like oftentimes we are, especially as like Americans, right, forced to adapt cultures or adapt to cultures that are not ours and embrace them for lack of knowing kind of what our footing is or knowing what our culture is. Because when you think about American culture, what I see is it's like a cesspool, right? Melting pot. So many different people from different places, so many different ideals, so many celebrations. Speaking of which, Juneteenth is coming up, you guys. So for people that are a part of the BIPOC identifying community, I'm curious as to how many of you have plans to celebrate Juneteenth and how many of you have already started celebrating and what that looks like for you. So comment below what your thoughts are. Oh, also, if you guys are a part of the collective of folks that are closer to Texas, I would like to know kind of the specifics of how you guys kind of approach or segue into this celebration and what some of your ideals around 4th of July or Independence Day for general American population are. So that's what I think about when I think about culture.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think about popular crimes when you think about culture?
Yeah. Certain cultures have a lower crime rate than others. I don't know why, but it is that way. So yeah, it's a thing.
Altogether, or do you think?
Altogether, it may be lower, but separately, they're lower than the national average because Latinos may have a lower crime rate. They don't do that to each other quite as well as blacks and Mexicans and other people. So collectively it may be low, but individually, like per state, we probably got the high crime rate for
You mean in the state of Georgia?
yeah, yeah, per capita. I just looked it up. Yeah, we per 100,000, we got the high crime rate for black people doing the most for real.
That's believable.
In the especially the property crimes and the car theft, larceny, homicide by equal, but the rest of them we got that.
Speaking of which, this is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month,
Okay.
right? So, do you think that crime is directly linked with the magnitude of health or wellness services provided or that Black men have access to, or men in general have access to?
Well, I think it's not the asset; it's the availability of other people who want to take advantage of the stuff that's out there. They're not doing that, So they'll not. If they are, they're not taking their medication. The ones that need it, they're not even going to try to get help. So it's kind of like a stagnated situation. So it falls on the individual and the people that are taking care of them.
Okay, so when you think about American culture, what is American culture identified by? Like, what do you think the primary components of being American is really about at this point?
It's talked about freedom, liberty, and democracy. But we know how that goes with the discrimination and prejudice and things that underline that in politics as well. So, you have to be here to kind of know how it works, to see how it actually goes. Nobody really knows the truth, but the people behind the scenes. They don't tell what they want to know.
Do you think fashion is a part of culture?
Yeah, most definitely in all cultures. Because if I step with some young man who want to shoot me, that's a thing. That's fashion. Excuse me, Mr. Jordan. That's what you do. They do. Yeah, that's a thing.
Okay, so you think is that a thing in general though?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you think it's a Black American culture thing?
Every culture has their own thing. Cowboy boot, the hat, the belts, or the sneakers, or the jogging suits, or the wraps, or the dashikis, whatever you want to call it. That's their cultural thing that they identify with. So they do that from every level. So across the board, everybody got that. Some just not pronounced the other. You can tell where somebody come from by their fashion, pretty much. You might have called it drive sometimes too.
So I think, all in all, I think fashion is a huge part of culture. I think that culture is conditioned, customs, traditions, the elements that make you, right? That signify that you belong to a specific group of people. I think
that's real pressure too.
You think so?
Yeah. If I rob you for your shoes, it got to be something with that. That's not normal. Because you got a certain brand of people on, I'm gonna take them. That's not normal behavior. But that's what happened. They would take your shoes because they don't want to buy them. Because of the Jordan or whoever it may be.
So how is that peer pressure?
They want to be the reputation to have what you got on their feet. So the peer pressure to rob you comes in place to get to what you have to make them satisfied, like till your car or whatever. That's how they come up. The peer pressure comes to society and want to have all the latest and greatest objects and things. That's why they rob each other.
Okay.
The pressure competition to have all the money on Instagram.
Well, you do see a lot of that kind of expanding into that kind of segues into this topic. And you're right. Sometimes it is fake money. Now they sell fake money online
Yeah,
so that people
yeah.
can make these videos and do these pictures and Instagram posts and reels, etc. with to make it look like they are quote unquote balling, right?
Create peer pressure.
So I think that when one society sees or idolizes another culture or society of people, I do think that we have a tendency, right, to lose sight of what makes us us. But I think that it's so difficult to define what makes Americans unique in their culture that sometimes it's difficult to say. Essentially, it's difficult to identify just one problem, right, or one thing being responsible for the lack of cultural accountability and respect, general respect. When I think about some of the customs and traditions and respectability politics that kind of should be arising from a culture of people that have moved from a place to where this country once didn't see us, didn't acknowledge us, right, as even human beings with rights, um, that had really the right to freedom and liberty.
Point right there. That's what makes us different from other countries. The democracy part of it, that will create that diverse culture thing to where people not point out one particular thing like other countries, cover or whatever. It's streamlined to be one system where only one custom is allowed by law and by custom. So you're not going to get those different variations of culture.
Is it though? America was founded off of the idea that freedom and independence were paramount for the human conditioning.
I agree.
So it's you have a group of settlers that are escaping the oppressive ideals of one system, moving into another system so that they can take.
My point, we have no one dominant Christianity or religion that over that the nation is up under umbrella. We say under God, but that's not no religion.
One nation under God determines that spirituality is the foundation of unified congruence. So there is a certain element of, I think, morality and ethical compass for human beings.
In other countries, they got that one central thing and they pray 7 times a week. So they do the Buddhist stuff and do whatever. It's systematically down the line. I mean, that's how they walk up. So their granddaddy, daddy, and everybody else, that's how it's been good for centuries. We're not like that.
And I think there is a certain level of indebtedness that those children, once they come up, kind of have to cultural, customs and traditions, and also to vacating it and accepting anything else. They feel more weight when it comes to separating and differentiating from family of origin. I think that in America, we don't necessarily see that. I think that social media has created this really tainted thing.
Sometimes too much freedom bring chaos. That's what we experience.
I do agree with that. Now, I think that
I'm not saying it's communism is too restrictive, but sometimes you gotta do the capital punishment and do the things that are going to be determined to certain behaviors over time or all at one time, or it may be you don't get to the point we had now. Now it's rampant, it's out of control. There's no solution. Jail, prison, that's no solution.
So I have this thing, right? When we get to that part, I'm going to introduce you guys to a question that I asked a current inmate, because I have some questions. I think the way that our culture approaches Reformation it's a contraindication of just that. Like, I think that Congress survives our senators, our spokespersons, our representatives. I think that those people thrive. They make their livelihood by way of pushing or kicking the can down the road, right? Pushing the issues to the side and not necessarily addressing them. And I think that at some point we have to come to grips with reality. We have to see and call a thing, you know? I feel like at the core of us, right? Like I was saying before, their social media gives us access to everybody else and everybody else access to us, right? Constant access, of course. Because in America, there are no limitations, no true limitations that prevents Americans from sharing information. Now, I do say in other countries, you see a more hands-on approach, government intervention, to where they're going to make sure that you're not, because those aren't free countries, right? You do have, I think privileges are everywhere, but I think that you do have citizenship, you do have, inalienable rights. But I think that for you to say and do whatever you want, whenever you want to, it's not just, I see that the rest of the world, though they do grant us some freedoms, right? In those places, they don't allow us to just do, move, and say whatever it is that we want, whenever it is that we want, without repercussion. So I think it's important to understand how it is that a society like that in Western culture can have such a large impact on the rest of the cultures outside of us that are observing us every day. And then also behaving in ways, because they're still intermingling with us, right? So we got military stations and duty stations and bases set up pretty much everywhere. So you have the intermingling, you got foreign exchange programs, people going to school in different places and that kind of thing. So there is a lot of intersection, right? And I think that when that happens, it gives hyper exposure of American culture and some level of entitlement mindset to other cultures of people. And then we start seeing some of the fallout of that when things start to take off and you see all of these different movements, if you will, picketing and that kind of stuff, because they start to think that what happens in America, and as effective that as boycotting can be, etc., it can definitely work for them and they can reshape their own cultures. But there are a lot of, I think, negative things that are taken from Western culture as well in America, like dress code and things like that. We've spoken a little bit to that when we talked about modern day women in impacting other societies as far as like how they dress, how they represent themselves, what they go out with, dressed in. But I don't think that we've touched on it as deep as it could have been. I think there are a lot of things in Western culture that could be reshaped and reformed if we were to first call a thing a thing. I think that we struggle as a culture doing that. And that's kind of what I want to speak to, because I feel like the impact of social influence is it's huge. It really is.
It's still under our government as well. That's why we create laws now for specific groups and things like that. Because they can influence the low fights and things. They get those terms of justice and they be talking protests and this and that. They bombard them with all these, council culture things or whatever. And they cave in and start making law for every group out there. All the ABCs and whatever. They get them laws. No. We're not trying to establish liberty and freedom and justice. We're trying to create compartments for other people to get rights that have never been there before.
But to what extent do we say we've gone too far? Like, how do we know we've gone too far when it comes to inclusion?
That's the thing. The Constitution have all the kind of diagram that we can say it's outdated, needs to be updated. I cannot say, but that whole act cannot modernize something and go off something that far back in time and try to make it be relevant, because it was not meant for relevant time that we live in today. So the adaptation has to come from the perspective of people looking at it from a pragmatic way where it makes sense. So I don't know how you would do that, but our government is not doing that well. I know that much,
Okay.
So that's why we got all the inflation out of control.
Excuse me, guys.
We're funding war with money we ain't got. We got trading all debt ourselves. Who gonna help us? Nobody help us pay our bill. But how we afford to do things we do on that level and still be viable and or super value you want to call it. We in that kind of debt. Who we owe the money to? Ourselves?
Yeah.
Well,
I think think that that's a complex. I think that's more of a complex discussion.
I don't think it meant to be done, but it cannot mathematically be done.
Not
That's
now. I do believe
never
that in the
nothing stationary.
past.
That's never stationary to predict the outcome of what's gonna happen with a war or natural disasters or whatever. You cannot put that equation in there.
So think about it, right? American people are now a part of an active war because our people are now fighting in unison with Ukraine citizens and soldiers in the war against Russia. So, what money are you spending? You should say the debt being incurred because
I don't know how to. The $640 billion package with ammunition and weapons and cash to how that go, but that's the package number they give it up. So I don't know how you break that down. I'm quite sure some money is involved in it for administrative stuff, what you want to call it, but it's up there to millions. Millions.
Okay, so
and we're doing it for two people, the Israeli people and over here and other people. So that's a lot going on.
So I want to pull up the Constitution so we can take a little bit of a look. Okay, at this. I want to share this with you guys. Here. Give me just a second. It's coming up. All right, so let's see if I can make this just a tad bit bigger. Oh, there it is. Let's see. Can you guys see it now? Hopefully you can see it. All right, so says the Constitution was written in the summer of 1787 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania by delegates from 12 states, right? So if we look at it, you have 12 founding or establishing states that are looking to do what? What do you see the purpose of the Constitution as? When you think about it,
establish some type of civilized order.
Right. Civilized order where people would do things and be held accountable. Right? And there is a general agreement amongst those people to use certain forms of currency, obey certain laws, statutes, etc. Go through certain processes to establish new laws, etc. Right? So, they're saying that they did this to replace the Articles of Confederation with a new form of government, right? It created a federal system with a national government composed of 3 separate powers and included both reserved and concurrent powers of the state, right? The president of the Constitutional Convention, the body that framed the new government, was George Washington. Though James Madison is known as the father of the Constitution because of his great contribution to the formation of the new government, right? The final language was written by Governor Morris. Constitution was a compact through Federalists and Anti-Federalists disagreed over whether the states or the people were the agents of the compact. So when you think about it, right? Ratification of this document, everybody deciding that let's go ahead and let's have this, right? Happens in 1787. So you move from the summer of 1787 to the end of the summer, a couple months later in September 1787. And you start talking about what it would look like for us to put this thing into action, right? If we are to go back and reform our government, that means that we'd also be looking towards essentially going through this whole process again, right? If we're calling for constant amendments, even beginning, right? And we didn't even get to the full ratification until a whole nother year later. What does that say about us? And you still don't have all 12 states on board. Right? The process is a process. It takes time. Now, while I think it could be quicker, activated quicker, nowadays, considering the fact that we have social media, phones, technology. Right.
Across the globe, the world is much smaller now.
So let's look here, right? When we're talking about the people that we have to depend on to get this thing done, you're talking about Congress, those people that are hired to represent us that constantly are failing us now, right? How do we get to a place to where we can trust again the same government that has continuously let us down, continuously found themselves deadlocked, right? Having to continue, but they're still getting paid, right? They're still getting paid. We're still paying them money. Our taxpayer dollars are still increasing and all of that stuff, but we're not getting anything for it.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
So when we're looking at the possibilities of amendments that may need to happen when we think about Reformation, what do you think needs to happen now?
They shouldn't have the they should come up with the formulation. We should have the last vote. People should have the vote. That's how I think about it. It should not be up to us to tell what we want to do, what they want to do. It should present what they want to do and put on a ballot, let the people choose what they want to have. That way the color people have nothing to do with it. It'll be done by the people. The majority gonna win. You want to come out and vote, you don't count like they do with everything else. That's the equal way to do it. That way everybody be on the same page. You have a chance to vote on everything that pertinent to you, your own personal life, or whatever. So you get a chance to have your voice really heard versus one person versus 1,000 people. Want something they don't come through because he's been bought off or whatever. You can't say he haven't. There's no way to tell that. The power structure is so corrupt. You never know.
I think it's their process that's what's corrupt, right? So if we change it to where you don't get paid unless you get progress, I think that to me would be enough to hold Congress and those people who sit in Congress.
I'm not worried about the pay. I'm worried about the falsehood, the intentions of the majority getting overruled by the minority because they have the power and the resources to do those things, moving the shakers. You put in a few people's hands, you're gonna always lose. You gotta put it in the people's hands. They're really gonna have something to do with that. That's what I think. Because the people we are the ones that pay these taxes. Paying their salary. We should have that vote. We put you in office so we can get what we want done. Not we put y'all down and we come out and say we don't want you back there. That's why we keep saying we don't want y'all back in there no more because you can do what the majority of people want you to do.
But that's what I'm saying. The democracy is still at play.
On what behalf though?
We still vote. We still vote for matters of our representatives taking things to Congress.
Not the matter. That guy was in all this inflation stuff. All he did in making it, we just hear it come up on TV, and that's a thing. No, everything should be voted on by everything.
But it says it is all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. That's the checks and balances. No.
Yeah, I see. I don't know about that. I know to go my county government, the local government. I see how the shift and how things change over the years, where the money go, where it goes, and who represent what part of the city. If you're from the south side come up all of a sudden. You from the north side come up all of a sudden. It's a known fact. They work where they come from. They pay back the people that got them in office first. That's the norm.
Do they though? Do they?
Yeah. That's how the Cal County got built. On the south side. They had to get somebody from the south side over here that know that needs to be done. From Morris Valley, from wherever. We got sidewalk, all kind of stuff because for people like that. The people from the north side. That's why that dog would stay so clean, because they represent that part of the city.
So here it is. This is what I'm looking for. Process. What we saw was it last night? I believe it was last night or the night before last. Former President Obama had to walk off a very confused President Biden, sitting in office currently. He was having a senior moment, right? So here, a couple of things. No person shall be a senator who shall not have attained the age of 30 years and been 9 years a citizen in the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state for which he's been chosen. Okay? Then it reads, the Vice President of the United States shall be President of the Senate, but shall have no vote unless they be equally divided. So that's the person that has the power to break the ties. Mm-hmm. So the Senate shall choose their other office and also a president pro tempore in the absence of the vice president. So think about this. If we already have effective means to break ties, right, to prevent us from being in a place to where we're deadlocked, why is it that our Congress, our representatives, the people that are responsible for legislature and making change effective in the United States can't effectively do the job that they are here to do? That's what I wonder. How do they continue to find themselves deadlocked?
I just told you how. For instance, every time we come up against that so-called government shutdown, 11 days, 5 days, all of a sudden, a packet get done. A lot of personal agendas be on the line. Well, everybody want to get a pork barrel project done, and everybody want to put money, want to put it there. But see, like I said again, that would not happen with all those things where you trying to get money at come out of what the people they're going to be fed, get the voting on things anyway, get put through by the people versus the one man or the one group of people against each other trying to get the whole package put through. You can't do that. You won't stay deadlocked. Everybody they want their people in front. I want my people in front. I want my people in front. It's no end game for that. That's why we get up against those things. It's not for the balanced budget for the people. It's people got their own idea what they want to put things, what they promise people stuff they're going to do. That's what it boils down to. Promise being made is going to be kept.
Okay. So when we're looking here, what's missing out of here, considering the President of the United States? They talk about age as it applies to people that are in the legislative House and Senate, right? Mm-hmm. They talk about our senators, right? We don't talk about age, or we don't talk about a maximum age for them to stay in power.
They have no term limit.
Every 2 years they're revoted. You get to vote again, right?
That's no, like, if you can't run again, you could be a career 40-year guy, run unopposed, like most of them do. You know, the first 8 years or so, you get a pension anyway, so that's why most of them do it. You get $100,000 a year for 8 years service. Who wouldn't do that? When you go to bed, you get money from now on.
So I guess my question would then be, you have a former president walking this guy off. He's confused. Why do we not put Kamala Harris in? And why is he still allowed to run for president again?
They have no viable answers for that. So they got her on the platform that's been put in front of them. That's it. They're going to put her in eventually, but right now, they're trying to party have made a decision where he's the head and they're going to try to shoot him up, set him up, or whatever we got to do to make him come off. That's the ticket they run on. Sorry, we ain't got nobody better. And she's really not no better either. She's not a biting clone, but she's on that ticket with him. Well, too much stuff don't went down, and what she won't last long either.
You think she won't last long because she's a woman?
No, because the politics, her politics would be way different than Biden, and they'll be afraid of her. They would not let her last. But she'd be more radical than him.
Why do you think that?
Because she have other causes that personal to her than he do. Her governance strategy is different from his. That's why they don't let her do it, but she can do because she don't think like he do. Not because she's young, because she's younger. She's much smarter. She's more articulate.
Mm-hmm.
She don't see what he sees. She's not gonna go for the read me word for word, paragraph. I'm gonna do what it say, ditto. She's gonna read it and she's gonna implement things. She's gonna be putting down. She's gonna put a personal touch on everything. And it might not be what you want. And they're afraid of that idea. It ain't gonna be what you want. She's not a game player like that.
So
she'll just sign papers and keep it going.
Okay, so let's look here. In case of the removal of the president from office or of his death, resignation, or inability to discharge the powers and duties of the said office.
They just play that several times.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
But they still, technically, they're going to defend that.
To invoke the 25th requires a couple of people attest to what it is that they're seeing.
They're trying to say that, but they keep shooting down with the PR people. They keep refuting that and things like that.
Yeah, but you can't do that when you're on live, right?
They find a way to do it. They shut it down. I mean, it don't go anywhere. Like the impeachment trial and things like that. All those things they get attention, but they don't go anywhere to make an impact. They try to do more damage than impactful to you personally. They trying to harm you for real. But it rarely works. Only time it works is when people start bold. It may get into people's mind. Then while you own it, doing what you're doing, it just make good TV and something to talk about. Let's do it. Let's see, people have short memory when that kind of stuff.
He has a short memory. I don't think that he realized where he was last night.
I believe that. I'm saying people so forget about that misstep because something tomorrow will take his place. And the next thing's going to take his place. There's always a current event that's going to be more current than last night. So can't keep up all that stuff. Especially if it's something like a slip or a fall or misworded something sentence or whatever. Or you forgot somebody's name or whatever. With so much going on, you can be 40 and forget somebody's name because there's too much going on. But since he's older, they make a thing out of that. He do it too many times. But I think he can find anything because these people are not easy to keep up with.
So for me, right, when I'm thinking about where we are, right, this guy has constantly said that we are in a state of a union where it's sound. He feels like he has ended inflation. He feels like all of these things that he asserts that he's done as president, and then to see him in a complete cloud and then having to be escorted off the stage by the former president, it tells you that he's either experiencing some type of demented state of being.
He's more deputy.
Right. So it's concerning. It's concerning that here it is that we see that some things need to be changed for sure, but there are already provisions in place that say that we have a process in which to go ahead and remove the guy.
I think
to unseat him.
Election, that's what they're going to do. They're gonna make it seem like something other than that. There's gonna be some kind of help issue to overshadow that. But that's the real thing, though. They may say this, say that. That's what really be. They can't do it now because the campaign is you can't take that ticket and turn it upside down and that's just how they do it. You know, they can, I would do that, but whoever in charge not trying to do that. They need to take up. They really do.
So I'm just wondering how many other people actually saw the footage from what happened on the stage. However, I do kind of want us to press. I want to talk about education, right? The impact of adequate education around these components right here. Understanding the various components of the current article, right, that allow us to understand our processes and what we already have laws in place for. I think this is a part of us learning to activate democracy within us. However, what I see is that in Black culture, there are not a lot of people who put faith in the voting system. Why is that, in your opinion?
Like I said before, the voting system is flawed for the simple reason that it cannot be trusted at any level because we just got to it's me once on shows all the ins and outs through his narrative and things he opened up. You can see it just ain't right. I mean, your vote only counts when they let it count. You don't know when it counts when they let it count. You don't even know what's going on. It's just not a fair process no more. It ain't no way you can validate that. You just can't.
I do feel like the process, so many people that feel like if they don't vote, then they're not electing the person who ends up with the seat. But if you don't vote, your lack of action actually allows the person who sits in office to be reelected again.
I agree with that.
And I think that when we see that somebody like him is struggling to just maintain cognizance, I think we have to be mindful of the impact of us continuing to elect and support somebody who is not capable of doing the job, perhaps, for us. I do think that Black Americans, for one reason or the other, have found ways to get things done. Juneteenth, for example, the observation of Juneteenth is now a holiday. I do believe that there is a trade-off for most employers, though, allowing people to actually be off. They said you got to pick one or the other.
Be all
right. So, like, what does that say? Like, and I guess to a certain extent, if in my mind, I think that you can celebrate both. I think that you could definitely celebrate independence of the United States of America, and at the same time, celebrate freedom, liberty, and independence for all Black slaves that were finally, set free on their course. I think that you could do that. And I think they're both equally important because they signify different points in our history, right? And I think they signify different points in our culture where we've made some strides as a culture of people. But I hear so many Black people say that they feel like we don't have a culture because the white man brought us here, and we don't have a culture because this was forced or indoctrinated, on us, or we are indoctrinated from whitewashed, components and this and that. I think people are just people.
Okay.
You understand? And I think, like, from my perspective, I think that we have the capacity to do what we need to do for ourselves if we allow ourselves to. I think there is a learned helplessness amongst several Black American people, because I don't think that many of us feel like we have the right or the know-how to just walk in and recreate what the subculture of us and our identity looks like in a healthy way. Because what I see is more people trying to remove what's already there, right? Let's remove these statues because it reminds us of a time where this war was fought and there were slaves and we were 400 years a slave and all of these things, right? And that's not to say that we don't have pain and traumas that we've suffered. But I think it's to say that we have to acknowledge the pain and suffrage of our people that we are ascended from on both sides
Mhm.
of the coin. And there is a part of us that has to also acknowledge that we have to do better, right?
Mhm.
In establishing a platform for expectations around traditions, customs, expectation, rules, boundaries, etc. as a culture of people. You okay?
Mhm.
But so that's what I think. Okay, those are my thoughts. I feel like when we start getting into what creates space for expansion or evolution or growth for us as
I got one thing I
people.
want to add what you said about education.
Mm-hmm.
Education in America, to me, is nothing less than a backdoor predatory loan situation where it puts everybody across the span in so much debt by the time they get to school. No matter what type of job you got a 10-year loan or 15-year loan to pay back. Well, you be 40 before you get a debt. So how you gonna really capitalize on something? You go into a lifestyle
You're
holding
talking
that
about
debt.
higher ed though.
Yeah, I'm saying that's why I said
You're talking about
education.
higher education. So you're talking about like college.
Yeah, so it's crazy how we got it set the way you want to get education, get the right job, get the right economic status, but it costs so much to get those things. And the time to pay it back, you be already almost halfway to retirement. So how you gonna make up the gap? Let, let your job pay $1 million a year. You ain't gonna be able to make that gap up. That's why so many people default their loan or can't pay them. They're making good money, they just can't pay that loan and have a house and a car and a family and stuff like that. It don't make any sense in the end. All of you got that kind of debt in front of you. It's crazy money involved in that.
So
Then,
I would agree, but I would also
then the
say
interest rate on that stuff is compounded like the IRS.
mm,
You know how that goes.
I think okay, so here are my thoughts around education, right? So Americans have free education, primary education. They don't have that in most other countries. You got some countries that are trying to introduce to see what that looks like, increasing tariffs, and be able to kind of have that, right? But I think that it's so many of us, so many of our children, so many of our parents, so many of us, period, in Black American society, who have not fully even taken advantage of the education that's been provided that was free. And to be
I agree.
honest with you, I do
I
not
agree.
even think that it's adequate because I think that when you look at history and you're rewriting history, you're removing um, statues that indicate that this place, this is a historical monument because this particular thing took place, because it triggers just one particular group of people. I think that we're losing sight of our cultural conditioning, like the things that help our kids connect to what we were and create space for growth into where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that a lot of people are really hurt around seeing, having a constant reminder that this general or that general slayed this many people, blah, 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 during the Civil War. But I think that we have to keep to prevent these things from happening again on US soil, prevent these wars from continuing to take lives of young people. I think that we do have to be taught and reminded of where we come from. And I think that since these elements of education have been removed, I
Mm-hmm.
see more issues. When you talk about the crime rates rising and stuff like that, living here in Atlanta is extremely depressing. And what I think is, I do not want to watch the news at all. I don't want to turn my phone on at all. I don't want to get alerts at all, because at every moment, literally every 2 minutes, you're going to see somebody is being murdered, somebody's being robbed, somebody's being this, literally. And I don't exaggerate when I say every 2 seconds, like literally there is something that is a crime of a high magnitude, lives being taken, children being murdered, murder, suicide. All of these things that are happening are, I think, as a result of not a lack of educational opportunities, but I think a lack of educational support and encouragement. So that's why I decided to do this show, because when I think about the ending of our subculture in America, I start to think about some of the things that I feel like are definite variables that play a particular role in misguiding where our kids go.
Mm-hmm.
You
I
know,
agree.
what people are more interested in is content around negativity, fights, murders. Our
Mm-hmm.
children have become desensitized. They're watching people die on the internet every day. And I feel like that is not healthy. I feel like
And
it's
the video
not
game don't
healthy.
help out. Violence.
Yeah. The video games are extremely, but here's the thing, right? The video games are extremely violent, but here's what I think. It has to be a balance, right?
Right.
Um, that brings me to the who is responsible for ethical and moral conditioning, right? If you recall back in the day, there were religious prayers that was a part of the process of educational
Mm-hmm.
beginning in the day, right? Educational
Mm-hmm.
facilities beginning their day with kids. Taught kids the basics of the founding fundamentals around accountability when it, applies to religion, and religion begets ethics and morality. I felt like that did put the responsibility off onto a teacher. However, in the absence of parents, right, children do need an alternative means to be able to acquire that understanding. Yeah. And I think the earlier you start, the more effective the outcome. Now, I don't believe in religious extremist delivery. I think that there is a balance, in which general spirituality is introduced in the same way that we introduce in trade currency. On our dollar, it says, "In God we trust." So, why are we not teaching just the basic premise of God exists? He is in us, He sees all things that we do. And one day we have to atone for the sins if we are to commit them.
Go back to what I said. Yeah, if you group went there and got a little law change for that, the ideation of one little section of atheists, you want to call it, and it changed the whole sector. We see all the part of that now. Morality, all the crimes, the lifespan, the culture, all of the cost of those things were taken out of place. They took the parents out of the school, teachers away from their job, they made everybody feel for their own position in life because now you're threatened by law.
Do you think that parents are essentially responsible for conditioning their kids ethically and morally?
Yes, you are, but when the law intervenes, it makes you powerless. It takes the power from you to actually do it effectively. If I can't do it like you need it without getting divorced by you or called out by you by the police, and I'm in trouble now for whooping your butt. You done something wrong? Come on. No, that.
But why should corrective action take so long to be a part of your everyday dance and disciplinary practices in your home to the extent that that's what the child then does?
I'm saying something to get to that point where you want to, not like growing up process, but still.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If there is, in my opinion, there is.
Some kids
You can
can't
be
just be talked
proactive or reactive as parents.
Some kids just can't be talked to.
Right. So the reason that they can't be talked to is because nobody's provided the foundation.
If that's the case, the foundation be found about their butt. Somebody figured out something.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If you wait too long, so if you have the foundation means your initial practices around parenting. That's when your child is from 0 to 6 months, and then from 6 months to 2 years old.
It was set in place from the what you want to call a structure situation. Like they take the visual as a child. We have original people in place throughout the whole community as well as your home, and your school system. So everything it's a lot.
Yeah, but there is still a foundation introduced into the child's mind during
Right.
those initial attachment
Well,
phases.
those structural components help you be a better person from the beginning because you had to count early versus you going through a thing well.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. There, in situations like that, right? We cannot say that some kids can't be taught to, because you can. Because if you created the foundation, right? I don't think spanking a child is above reproach. I think that I think sometimes it takes the idea that you'll get a spanking. And I think that's sometimes enough. I think kids don't need to be hit, but the idea that they will get a whooping.
I understand that. I agree with that. But I'm still saying this. The law have empowered these kids to think they can say they want to say, do they want to do at 7, 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a mindset that would drive somebody crazy, make you want to choke their little butt, because they think it's one way to it, because a lot of them told them somebody arrest them and that they're going to be a solution. It's really not. So there's a lot goes into that.
Right, but I think that also comes from, I think so it's two sides of the same coin, right? I think that children should not be viewed as property in the same way that there was a women's suffrage movement that moved us to, as a human, culture of people, to thinking of women as people with their own independent thought processes and growth, aspirations, needs, whatever, right? Productivity. I think that children are not property. I think that they are your responsibility to a certain extent until a certain age.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a responsibility as a parent to rear them and influence them. You're kind of molding, cultivating, shaping, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, when it comes to matters of morality and ethics, we are responsible for creating the foundation. And that means that in order for us to show up in that way, we have to vacate some of the things that we'd rather be doing in those phases of our lives, or choose not to become parents and be responsible with our reproductive efforts. Because the reality is, we're having sex, we're very much involved, we're doing all the things that lead to having children for recreation and sport.
Now you just got them up there. The kids we're seeing now are the results of what the theme when they came out of school, morality stuff, we take it out. So now they got the kids that are teaching that stuff too. We the ones not getting that type of stuff, no type of teaching. They let the school system do, because they've been taken out of the loop. So you get the results of that backfire from you now. That's what you're getting.
But then to get upset with the school system and say the school system isn't doing something is an illogical position to take.
But they took it. You got lazy parents who's done that. You put in their system. We like, in our culture, you know how it goes. We'll pass the buck in a minute. You make a law that won't fit up, make a lazy what we are. We're going to give it to you, let you handle that until it becomes a problem for us. We won't get money for it. We move our money and action. So that's how they go. But when you got the school system doing what they do, and we took us out the loop from that age group, morality started with them when they got to school with no prayer, no flag, no my kill the country, be all that stuff there. All that stuff got removed. That's the result of them people right there having the kids they have now. They didn't instill none of that stuff. We got to instill when we were younger. The old things was in place when we were younger. Now the parents now, those things are gone. They didn't talk to their kids about the Bible, morality. They let Black history and the teacher teach them that. That's all they know. And the TV taught them.
Okay. So what do you think about the prison to pipe? What is it? The education school to prison pipeline thing?
That's true. Yeah.
So when we think about crime and punishment in our judicial system, so children are young, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say these children are children that are not being conditioned to have sound morals and ethics, like those ones that you just mentioned, because the parents are absent or feel disempowered, right? So how do you then view the crime and punishment or judicial system that now is put in place to correct those kids because the parents won't? How do you view that system and its vitality or effectiveness for rehabilitating people?
It still is. That's the area that we have yet to tackle, because there's still so much prejudice and so much thing going on with that, because now you're trying to 15-year-old, make them a private adult, all depending what you're climbing, what you call it, what state you live in. Those the gray area we fall into now. You can do a crime at 14, you get charged as an adult. You do the same crime in another state, you get charged a month. So it all depends where you at or how it goes down. But, those laws are in place for the few that they'll select, that those somebody in the places they can get the job done. If you get a public defender or whatever like that, you be one that want to follow the system to get messed up over something simple, something can be resolved. But you get just 14 years for a technicality. Somebody wouldn't make a deal for you against your best interest. That's the gray area we stay in right there with that judicial system.
But I think that those things happen because people make plea deals. I think that if we allow the process,
because people put the idea in your head that's the best thing to do. We don't know no better.
Nobody cares whether or not somebody says it's the right thing to do. That's the other piece about ethical accountability and morality. So if I know that I've committed a crime, regardless of what the impact, what the potential for me
Mm.
to have prison time is, if I know that I've committed a crime, I know I have to atone for that. If I know that the crime I committed is not the magnitude in which I'm being tried, I'm going to go to court. Because here's the thing, I feel too often the judicial system, they place charges on a person that are above the magnitude of the crime that was actually committed.
Exactly. On
And
purpose.
so that people can feel intimidated to go for a lesser charge that is more appropriate, but then they maximize the amount of time that they attach when they do plea out. So for me, what I see is what needs to happen is, I think the first thing is creating a sound foundation or reestablishing a sound foundation for kids to understand law and order, right? And it starts in home. And I think after that, it requires constant education and re-education to disembowel some of this negative ideation around lawlessness, not being accountable. And then I think that children should understand, and adults alike, that when it's time to be accountable for the crimes that we've committed in life, we have to atone for that.
I agree.
Let's go through the process, judicial process. The problem that I have is on the outskirt of that, right? At the very edge is the time that a person has to serve for specific crimes and the way that things are on the inside. When you think about the prison system, the system is not made to rehabilitate a person. And quite the opposite. What I see is that the system is now made to keep, yeah, to keep those people away from society so we don't have to be worried about them. But my thing is that fair for these people that are human beings that have to atone for their sins, they're breaking the law, committing these crimes, etc.? It's not safe for them to even go to prison because, like, I had a conversation with a person who is a current inmate that is close to me, and I asked him the question, like, if you had one thing that you could change. Now think about all of the issues that are wrong inside of correctional facilities. I just want you guys to take that in for a second, right? If you only had one thing that you could change about the prison system, what would that one thing be? Okay. And I have to say that this person is in prison now for a crime that is a way higher magnitude than was actually committed by him. Okay. And then the crime that he's in for is the crime was committed by his brother. So he's serving this time for someone else. That's the first thing. Okay. So now, and he's been in prison since he was a teenager, but as an adult, right? But when you think about it, when you think about all of the components to it, his answer was he wished that they would take the contraband knives and the murderous spirit from the people who are incarcerated, and they would stop killing one another in there. Mm-hmm. That tells you the magnitude of death that these people are exposed to every day. Now, I know personally because he and I, we talk frequently, but the process of our correctional facility actually correcting actions, it's about as failed a system as our government, in my opinion. I think we have to think carefully as to how it is we handle people that are going to prison. And we have to think carefully as to how it is that we're either preparing them for a life of crime after being admitted in prison or a constructive reentry into society where they rehabilitated themselves. I don't think that we have enough rehabilitative programs for prisoners. And I don't think prison, the process of incarceration, is appropriate for the people that they have in there. I think even if, and I know like a lot of folks are really on the fence when it comes to like people who have committed murders versus people who are committing white collar crimes, etc. But for just a second, okay, I think that there should be a separate place for people that have committed capital murder. These would be your serial killers, your sociopaths, right? Antisocial personality people. I think that there should be separate, and I know they have supermax facilities, et cetera, but there's still a mixed population of people with a variety of crimes having been committed. We're still mixing up these people and their crimes. So what we're doing is we're creating space for those people to now intermingle and have the same level of social exposure and impact, and it creates a super criminal because some of those people that they may be aligning themselves with will one day get out, right? And not only that, there are several crimes that happen on the inside of the correctional facilities. Like they've got drugs, everything that's on the outside, they got it in there. Yeah. And the only thing is, the prison is a very dangerous place for people to live out their lives because you don't have the same freedoms, liberties, and protections that you have on the outside. You know, I know people think like, oh, okay, well, drugs, this, drugs, that, drugs going to be everywhere. But it's different when you're consuming drugs and you have hundreds of inmates to a couple of guards and hundreds of inmates to the couple of guards in different parts of the prison are dying from overdoses from drugs because you got thousands of prisoners in the facility, right? So those hundreds of people that are going to die from drug overdoses across the span of a couple of hours of a day, every day, those people their lives may have been able to be saved, but you never know because there is not a significant eye on those people, right? It's no way to really give them the help that they deserve. So I feel like we're sending our loved ones and people who commit crimes that we are not associated with. I always like to say, like, there is a person inside of the person that has committed this crime, right? The crime is one aspect, the human is the other aspect. I think that we as people sometimes do things that are unsavory, but I do not think the punishment fits the crime oftentimes. You understand what I mean?
I agree with that. We do the same crime, different areas, different states, different outcomes.
Yeah, but see, I'm not worried about that because from state to state, laws change, right? So legislation is different because the state territories have different laws.
There's no way you can. That's what I'm saying. There's no systematic way to get the right crime. But you got the right representative who knows what he's doing. How you go about your case.
No. So the magnitude of a crime is a separate thing.
Yeah.
Right. So you have like misdemeanors, and then you've got felonies. You got petty crimes, right? So if the magnitude of the crime is a misdemeanor, like it happened, and it's not premeditated, right? It's a consequence of us emotionally responding to a thing, right? That's not necessarily temporary insanity, but just emotional responses that lead to a thing happening. Accidental death, for example, right? That's very different from a person who has watched the person, plotted their schedule, know their routines, stalked that person for a period of time, and then murdered them, right? Because they plan to murder them. So I think that those people that accidentally commit murders or accidentally kill people, they shouldn't be in the same system with people that have contemplated what it looked like to murder somebody and then act out and take that person's life. Okay. Because those are two different mindsets.
When you think about people back convicted, know he done any crimes, and all.
I'm not so in both cases, these are people that did it.
Right. So they know he done it, right?
Right.
Why do we keep them on death row 20, 30 years, feeding them, housing them, let them create their predatory environment, and then that repetition keeps going on? We start killing these people.
So the reason is
because they mentioned downtown.
No, the reason and that's how it was back in the day, and that's interesting coming from a Black person. Emmett Till was executed. Do you know why?
So you're supposed to love a white woman, right? That's the word.
Right. However, He never committed the crime that he was, you know, in there for. He was the crime was rape.
That's why I said if you sure, if been out.
Yeah, it's no way to be sure though. So if you're tried by a jury, even of your peers, and you're found guilty, there is time for you to be able to investigate.
Now they come up, now you got to do it anyway.
Yeah, so the thing is, they gave plenty of time for a reinvestigation, for advocacy, and to reopen.
Long enough to see if we got.
Sometimes not, because you got to think about most of these people that are conducting the reopening of cases and investigating cold cases. Most of the people that are doing that are going to be pro bono people, and they're doing it pro bono-ly. But we're in a capitalistic society. Yeah, the appeals are a part of the process.
Yeah, I know you want to live, but you thought about that, you pull that trigger.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing, right? That's the mindset of the person who is denying the appeal.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is, what if it's circumstantial evidence that convicted that person? And just because a spade looks like a spade doesn't mean the spade is a spade. Maybe it's just dark. Maybe it's a heart.
I don't know. All I know, the other countries, they have a rough prison system, but guess what? They can't find it like it works. You can't do things that you want to do, like you're not going to get the act.
Yeah, but in those countries, many people are put to death wrongfully, and they haven't committed the crime because it looks like they've committed the crimes, and the evidence stacked up against them looks like they've committed the crime.
That's the part of the equation that can go bad or go wrong. But you're in there.
I think when you have specific crimes that you've committed, and there is evidence that's collected, but there is no definitive way to place you at that crime scene, or there is an alibi introduced, I think that there are certain parameters that should be put in place that allows people to argue their case and find ways to prove their innocence when it looks like they are very guilty. Because let's just say sometimes it looks like a thing that it's not. And I know that, but I also think that there should be some level of a separation between the type of people that are housed in prison.
I agree with that.
With other people.
The same house. They shouldn't be in the same prison. Y'all at period. Not the same property.
Right.
Now you have access to each other. You have the law, you know what I mean, maximum really death for those people that does that. And the lower members, they have less of crime because they're not going to be violent. They're not introducing themselves to predatory behavior problems.
Yeah, and you don't want to build. Here's my thing. I understand how environment and exposure work, right, in human condition. You don't want to create a mega criminal. And to be honest, when we think about undue bias of folks that are repeat offenders, etc., looking at a person's record, there is a reason why that bias is present. Because we think to ourselves, like, okay, well, this person has an MO for doing this. This is what they've done in the past, and they keep doing it. They've been to prison, they've been out, they've been to prison, they've been out. They're going to continue to do this. They look good for this crime because this is what they do. We know them to be
a lifetime criminal.
Right. However, sometimes we're not correct. Sometimes we're completely off base, and they are not the people that did the thing. But I think if we start changing the way that we look at people and crime and the propensity to reacclimate ourselves to crime, I think that that's a viable solution. It helps us to be able to investigate things for what they are and to accept that people are just people. They're going to do what they do. And sometimes the things they do are going to go against the rules and the regulatory authority of the government and legislation. And sometimes it won't. Hold people accountable. But let's not create a ridiculous amount of time to send someone to prison for. And then also we've got to look at prison reform and how we can get that done.
Especially at the drug level, where people in there for possession for 10 years for some crazy amount of ounce, whatever, ain't really amount of nothing, but got all that time for that little stuff. That's ridiculous. You know.
Well, it depends. If it's a deadly amount or intention to distribute it to people, because here's the way that I feel about drugs is the same way that I feel about murderers that are intentional.
I see
because
that.
When we think about drug culture, fentanyl kills on contact. in small amounts
But
on contact.
I'm saying you can say that, but that's going to affect the black and brown community so far ahead of everybody else.
It doesn't matter. I don't think that crime has a color. I think that we have to learn to be accountable. Again, it goes back to the base. So here, I don't advocate for black people because they're black. I advocate for black people that have been
that lower level right there,
unjustifiably prosecuted.
Different people, but that level that is in prison is mostly us.
Yeah, but not really.
You know,
not really. More, you have a lot of people who are from the Hispanic community that are drug cartel arrests, and they make up a heavy.
That's what I'm talking about.
They make up a heavy population of the prison
system. Go to jail. But we go to jail on normality of a lesser charge, like I said, for the ounce of possession and the description. A little technicality does well. They getting crazy time for stuff that ain't. Don't even put that.
It's different. Jail time and prison time.
I'm gonna say don't put them in jail for no 20 years for no.
I don't think. I think misdemeanor possession charges should be 5 to 10 years because we know right from wrong.
I said the same thing about gun. Then you call the gun, you should automatically get 5 to 10 years without a license. I don't care how you got that gun. If you call possession with you ain't supposed to go to jail. You the same way about that?
Yeah, so illegal gun charges, I feel differently. I think you should be in prison for a longer period of time because why do you have a weapon?
That's not registered. You're not even commit a crime. Just the intent to commit a crime.
Right.
That's enough for me to put 5 year automatic. Ain't no getting out. No bond.
I don't think 5 years is enough for that because
I'm saying
when I look at so the number one killer of our people right now in the black and brown community by us is gun crime. I think that we have to exercise a strong show of force on what it looks like for people who are caught with illegal possession of weapons. And I think that that's the only way to remove. Yeah, that's the only way to remove the element of crime and that magnitude from society. Kids are dying in insurmountable amounts. There was just a murder-suicide 2 days ago while the kids were in the house. The dad over, where was that? Cobb County, I want to say. I think that was Cobb County. They had 3 kids in the house at the time. This guy killed his wife and then turned the gun on himself. Kids ran out to the neighbors. They both died. But the thing is, that's just one isolated event. You know, on that same day, we had several shootouts on the interstate, shootout from drive-bys, shootouts from people. And I mean, kids are dying. So the thing is, like, nobody cares about the impact or residual impact of the crimes that they're committing in our community. So when I think about what a solution looks like, it looks like we need to look at the root of the problem. The guns are not the problem, it's the people. People are using the weapons to commit these crimes. So the mindset of people can only change if there is a show of force and support behind reform. You know what I mean? So I think that that's the solution, collective advocacy for order in our community. And we have to protect these children because they can't protect themselves. We have to protect their mothers because they're single mothers and they can't protect themselves or their children. We have to offer adequate protections for the people that are innocent bystanders. The streets have turned into a war ground. And that's in the Black community. That's in our community. So at some point we have to say, ooh, by the way, here's an ethical component that we can incorporate into our culture that says that we are defined by XYZ. That works. That's the work. I think that we just have to do the work. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to get to the relationship topic of discussion. So we have a 31-year-old male married to a 33-year-old male. It's the Black American couple. They are having issues with intimacy following therapy for infidelity recovery. 3 years married and have been together for 8 years. The betrayal happened 12 months ago. Okay. Just to give you guys a little bit of background, I always think like it doesn't matter what the color of the folks are. It doesn't matter what their race or ethnicity happens to be. However, the 31-year-old male who submitted this advice column topic, I think he identified as Asian American. I think Asian American, and his 33-year-old male partner who committed the infidelity is an African American male. Okay. And the interesting part to me was the details provided. So, he says that he's known this guy since they were in high school together, I believe. Um, early high school. And he watched him. He's, kind of always idolized him, thought he was gorgeous. And from his understanding, the guy has always been gay, to use his language, right? And he has always been gay. And they were never closeted or anything like that. So he did not understand what he found when he found the partner, the African American guy, having sex in their bed with a female. Now, I do not want to say what I always see is on the minds of people when they look at these types of discussions. I don't believe that. That's like what I do believe. I do believe that couples have some significant struggles in their marriage at the 3-year mark. Okay, whether it is a homosexual couple or a heterosexual couple, we see serious issues come about at the 3-year mark. They've been married for 3 years. At this point, you really start to get to know the person that you married. And I know that, the details say they've been together for 8 years. He's known him for a plethora of years, right? His question was, what should he do? Because he feels like his partner is really interested in women and has just been using him for all these years. So here's the thing. And to be specific, his partner's having problems with keeping his penis erect for the sexual encounters that they're engaging in with one another. So here's the thing, right? That does not mean that your partner prefers the person that they happen to be cheating with. But I think we're redefining who we are at every phase of our life, right? So there are several phasal developments that people go through in humanity. And looking at that alone, it says that, there was an impediment, probably, definitely, where he was identifying himself through identity crisis, and you happen to be there. You were convenient. Now, the problem is you guys got married in the middle of another phase of development. So I don't know what conversations were had. But when a man is 29 going on 30, when they reach 29, there are some specific developments that happen cognitively and emotionally in that emotion center of the brain that helps them solidify going into the next phase of development. And sometimes there are some little crises. Okay? So I think it doesn't mean that he's now straight and he's no longer gay. It doesn't mean that he doesn't love you. it means that infidelity recovery takes some time, you know. Um, you have to trust the process, but more importantly, you have to find a therapist that works for you. If you don't find a therapist that works, find a life coach with a therapy background or a therapy graduate degree. Because not all of us are licensed. You know, we don't all seek licensure, but there are several different helping professionals that are qualified to help you through some of these issues that are more than qualified to help you navigate next steps, right? Discernment counseling is definitely needed. I just don't, I don't know because I haven't, you know, I haven't seen you guys. So, like, I don't know if that means that he is straight all of a sudden. If you've been in a relationship with somebody over a decade, they've been openly gay for over a decade. Maybe he's. My questions would be: are you guys thinking about children? Is that something he's trying to acquire? Maybe they were working on that. That was a surprise. I don't know. I don't know. Wait, what are your thoughts?
He had a moment, so given that moment he had, could have been curiosity, could have been a change of pace, or somebody you known previously had an idea about you want to do that person anyway. It could be all kinds of things, you know. So you have to just spur the moment. It could have been it could have been building, testing if we will get what he want to do, what he don't want to do. We call him out at that moment until you figure out what he really want to do. He might like both. You just try to do the opportunity to see you like both. You got caught doing it. I mean, it's a possibility, you know. So that's the topic of conversation you should have had with the person he built that alone. You could have kind of told him, they could have figured out together, but I guess he felt it person enough to figure out himself. If it works, he'll tell him. If it don't, he got to tell him. It's any kind of equation. But that's not enough information to make a thorough observation. You know what I'm saying? Too many components missing. First, the time, present, the quality, the relationship, and the sexual activity they both are into. You know, we don't know.
I think it's important to navigate childhood traumas when you're courting people. I think that that's important because it tells you the propensity that a person has to evolve into very toxic behavior.
They feel young too, so you know,
Yeah.
I don't, you know, I can't say right or wrong with that. You know, you don't know what drove them to do that. It don't seem like it was just a moment of step on the screen or something. I don't know.
Hmm.
It might not be his first time doing it, the first time getting caught.
Right.
You know, so you can't say that. You know.
Yeah, but at least I think it definitely calls
he
for
never
discussion.
suspected it. That would make it so traumatizing to him.
Right. But I think trusting the process is a viable solution. Continue to go through infidelity recovery therapy. It works. You just have to allow the process to do what it's going to do. And this is what I'll say, right? So for many people going through infidelity recovery, it sometimes seems unrealistic. You know, some of the things you hear the therapist or the counselor or whoever it is that you're working with, some of the things you hear them say seems like it's unrealistic because you're stuck in your pain of the trauma of realizing that the person you essentially trusted is not who they said they were, and they haven't shaped out to be who you believe they would become. Betrayal is a complex thing, right? And there are several different types of betrayal. I sometimes am baffled at how many people are still bringing up the sexual infidelity as a primary complaint in their marriages when they're, trying to determine whether or not to file for divorce. But I'd say continue the process of infidelity recovery. Learn how to utilize the trust point system and dedicate yourself wholeheartedly to it, right? In the relationship. I think that oftentimes we find ourselves indebted to our partners because we think that when we marry them. But our commitments should essentially be primarily to the relationship and to our spiritual element that has aligned themselves in our marriage. So God, right? They say a family that prays together stays together, but it doesn't mean that they stay together happily. And it doesn't mean that they don't feel extremely lonely when they're clearly not alone, right? So I always say, I always tell people, like, seriously, I really do not encourage people to leave spouses. It's just, I'm not of the business of getting into people's spiritual wars with their maker. Okay. But I am an advocate for connectivity and recognizing the reasons that are at the foundation of why it is that we make the commitments that we make, and examining the magnitude of our expectations when we make those commitments. Because it's like you have to ask yourself, to what extent was I expecting this? To what? Because let me tell you, we all have these worst case scenarios that we tell ourselves prior to actually going through with the I do, or scripting the narrative of our own vows. And I think that once we accept that, it allows us to now enter into new territory where we can accept some things about the existence of our relationship, perhaps, that we were previously turning a blind eye to. So I think maybe examine your relationship, examine what's at the core, at the foundation of a relationship, examine the established ground rules that you guys initially put into place when you started to build your relationship, and then look at where things may have shifted and gone wrong. And then just reach back in there, get back into the dance of understanding and reinterpreting what life looks like together, and figure out whether or not it's something that you guys can continue to move forward with. I think it's sometimes difficult when we look at the magnitude of the feelings associated with betrayals, right? Because it's painful. It hurts. Don't hit me now. It's painful. So recognizing our pain, validating our pain, but also trusting our processes are essential elements in healing. So I do hope that that helps. Um, let's talk about our final thought. You guys have to excuse me. I know that normally I'm so high spirited, but I took Benadryl today, and the way my life is set up, my eye is like super irritated. If you can see it, that's why I put these blue light glasses on. That's a rough one. But so, final thoughts. So, what do you think about the state of our union, our current president, some of the policies around culture and subculture in Black and Brown communities? Like, what are some of your thoughts that are still lingering?
We are at a very state of confusion with the world as it is. And we our economy is set up, and we are biased at every level, because there we have a former president who's now a convicted felon, who's still able to run for office, who's still the better man for the job. So that makes it kind of double edged. But now, what does that say about the letter of the law? If I'm a felon, I can't vote. I can't run for office. And everything else. We have a checks and balances of getting off. The reality is sets in. The best person should be for the job, no matter where they come from. I believe in. But we're getting to that point where that's why everything looks shady, confusing, and not trustable, because it's coming down like that. They make excuses for people they want to be, people that have already been in that situation that still being punished for it.
I think you made a really interesting point when you pointed out the fact that now he's a convicted felon, but convicted felons
And I think
can't
he's a
vote.
better man for the job, but that mark it, as they say, nobody's above the law. That law been in place since we know when you go to jail, you can't vote. It's going to jail. I ain't so
So
they're doing that on purpose, try to create their own narratives. As I say, you got Democrats, you got Republicans, you got groups of people that are infighting over something that should be one nation. It all bets off. It's a cat fight to the end. It's not about the better man winning or the better system going to prevail. It's about who paid the most money, the most power, who had the most influence. That's not democracy. That is the daggone dictatorship.
I think people do not vote.
I don't think
in our community
you come out
like they should.
The popularity vote, and then you got the electoral vote. It's all set up to be a
Not really, because it's still about the most votes per capita.
How can you in the popularity vote and lose the electoral vote? That happened. That shouldn't be available to even happen. You can't do that. How can I win?
Yeah, so you can be a popular person. I can like you, but I'm not electing you in office.
But the people have already done that.
The people are not. People are not saying we want to elect that person in office. They're saying we like this person, but we're not saying that we like this person enough to show up and then have enough votes to elect him in by our delegate.
But the vote say that, but the electoral vote goes to the other guy.
Yeah, because it's different. So it's okay to like a person, right? But and like a person for that party or whatever, but it's different to cast your electoral vote for this person.
That's what I'm saying.
It has to be more or per that person's area that they're responsible for, whoever your delegate is for casting a vote.
We are
it has to be
the electoral people are.
No, the electoral vote is cast based on how many people have the number of votes acquired overall for a specific area.
Sometimes one of that popularity contest, the electoral votes don't go to them. I don't understand that process.
Because they don't. Because you may have additional votes that have not been accounted for in those initial reportings.
They don't make that known though.
For the other half of it, they do. They publish the outcomes. Once it's actually signed, sealed, and published, we see what the actual numbers are. We're only seeing, like, when you're watching the votes be given, right, to a person on election day, we're only seeing them tally them up as the election is going.
I think I know how that happens. You win the popularity vote, but you win the right state electoral vote, you automatic. That's how. In other words, I can take this half the country. I got 500,000 votes, but all them electoral votes might be 15, 20, 30, whatever. I go and get these.
That's still based on how many delegates are assigned to a certain area, though.
That means that's why you got to fight.
That's based on census data.
You have to fight to get certain states where you're trying to get those votes.
Right, because it's based on census data, and we don't feel that either.
So that's what I'm saying. Our platform as a nation is collapsing from the inside out because of that. I
don't think it is collapsing. I think it's just people that are choosing inaction. They don't want to participate in the process.
But
if people don't want to participate in the process, then people cannot complain. If it's an inconvenience for you to cast your vote, your ballot, then you cannot make complaints about the state of our nation as it starts to decline. Right, that's what I'm saying, because protesting has no face. Nothing counts. It just creates a ruckus. It's the same as us. We'd rather create violent situations and do shootouts instead of actually resolving issues. We'd rather murder than get to having a conversation, get to the point where we can have a conversation and sort out our actual issue, and then hand down more trauma from generation to generation.
Yeah.
So it's people, I think, are the problem. It's the people and the what they do, the what we believe in. I think that Black culture has lost its footing. And I don't think it's too late for us to reestablish a baseline to where it's actually safe and effective, But I think we need to tread lightly, and we need to look at what that will look like over time. Mm-hmm. The impact of the inaction, I think. The state of our union is disappointing. That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. And I think it takes community and people having a passion to get to Reformation mindset in order for us to fix what's there. But I think there are so many levels of things that need to be reformed that when we look at that initial picture, it's just so overwhelming, you know? And I think that the answer, unfortunately, is to pay our senators and legislators less.
According to private debate.
Yep, 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 yep.
That's a good approach. But
I think we have to pay them less. If we start paying them less, there are more American dollars to go into American programs, to go into establishing the baseline for a more effective educational system, a more effective prison system, that actually is focused on rehabilitating people so they can re-enter society and be contributing and high functioning members of society.
I don't know. It gotta be because there's so much money being made besides your check that they're exposed to. Most of them can't living off the residual.
No, they take their money and they invest it. But it's not. I don't want to get into that. I want to. They should not have access to American funds if they're not serving adequately American people.
You can put them votes and all that stuff.
That's a part of the process.
That's what I'm saying. That's why they don't get salary. They make more money on.
They still need their salary. So you're thinking
basically keep them legal.
No, they live larger than life. Their expenses are high, so they need the money. When your expenses are high, when you have a house note that's $7,000, $8,000 a month, and you get money from vehicles and
people like that, you're supposed to be getting money from. Yeah, they always claim.
No, that's all. That's all a part of the process. That's all politics. It's not that they're not supposed to be getting money from them.
But that process will corrupt all processes. Things done right because
it doesn't corrupt the process. It doesn't corrupt the process. So politics is a process of exchanging money and influence. You exchange money for power and influence. That's just a process. We know that. That's not going to change.
Across the board,
that's not going to change. So but that's the thing. That's the part that's not going to change. That's politics.
Right.
So we have to accept that that's going to be it. But the American dollars that are funding your lifestyle, they need to be based on actual results for American people. I don't care what you do with your other money. That's your business. But the American taxpayer dollars that are funding you to go in there to do a job, when you're not doing the job, when you're deadlocked, you don't get paid.
Well,
period.
That.
I think that's what needs to change. But so, you guys, it has been lovely. It's been real. I am definitely going to take my leave and try and get me some rest. Because like these allergies are smoking me. We are not a good fit, we are not in a marriage. To the person who submitted their relationship discussion question, thank you. And I really hope that things get better for you. Until next time, you guys, be safe, be well, be a positive impact on those people that are connected to you in society. And I will catch you on the next one. Later days. Bye.